Welcome to this BBC Spiritual News, Global Spiritual News from BBC. This is coming from the Bodhisattvas who just break their fast so that they could speak. So today I thought of touching on a topic that interests me very much. This is taken straight from Abbey by the Buddhist master Acharya Vasubandhu. There he talks about 6 ways of meditating on breath. And all he says in that text, in the whole text, is just one line. Thang la sopan number 2. The 6, beginning from counting, etc. That's all, right? And that's all he says. Although he puts that into perspective, saying, "Ugub ujung tembani, shirap sanga, juyuje, doden chibe mainde." So he draws on this topic of breathing in and breathing out, and puts it within the typical Abhidhammic map in terms of what level it belongs, which realm it belongs, within the levels of concentration practices, how many they have, and then in terms of its nature, is it wisdom group or non-wisdom group, and who has access to this, etc. Having explained it in terms of its Abhidhammic map out, and it says, counting and the rest, counting and the 6. That's all he lives at it. And then when you look into his own auto-commentary, there he explains a little bit. And so this is known as the 6 ways of meditating on breath, 6 ways of meditating on breathing in and out. He makes it very clear that he counts breathing in first and breathing out next, because that's how we begin. We begin our life with breathing in, and we finish our life with breathing out, like that, right? So he kind of sums up the whole story about our life. It begins with breathing in and ends with breathing out, unable to breathe in again. That's our story. So it should be quite amazing for us that this is something that we are doing every time. Something marvelous is happening here and now, almost automatically, which could mean big, right? So he draws on that. So he very particularly mentions breathing in first, breathing out next, and even some Tibetan commentaries have commented on that, the significance of it. So what are the so-called 6 ways of breathing meditation? I inserted so-called because not every one of them has necessarily directly to do with breathing, except yes, it kind of follows from there. So the first 3, you could see of the 6, the first 3 is shamatha, the remaining 3 is vipassana. And it kind of puts the whole practice about breathing into perspective. What is this breathing, chasing after breathing about? Just chasing, is that all? Yes, of course, by doing just that, one can find oneself in a kind of calm, quiet place. But if one doesn't utilize it for the next step of vipassana, next step of probing deep into the nature of our reality, more particularly into the workings of the afflictions, more particularly going deep into the very subtle underlying conditions of them, then it kind of remains short of a much bigger purpose than just coming here and now, and what next, right? So that's the whole purpose being kind of, I kind of see the whole purpose, and even the commentaries kind of puts that into that perspective of how it reflects the progression along the path, through the path of accumulation onward. Gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Right? and it explains that. So what are those 6 ways of meditating on breath? It kind of starts with a very simple one, counting. So let me just first list them. Tang la sokpa, counting, etc. The 6, counting, etc. Something like that. So first is counting. Chang dang qianru. Second is following. I haven't seen any translations of this, right? What would be a better choice of the word? Counting, following, staying, and then probing or investigating, then shifting gear, and then what do you call? Tang da qian du zhuo tang, dou tang yu tang, yong su taba nam yong su taba. Kind of further refining it to full refinement. So the first counting is you stay in a meditative state and let the kind of breathing first settle down into a natural rhythm. Once it has settled down to a natural rhythm where you do not exert any force in kind of controlling, regulating it, whatnot, then you try to watch your breath, and there you bring the counting. In the counting has threefold aspects. You count in the sense, every round of breathing, in breath and out breath, you count 1, 2, like that. You build the counting. But what you do is you breathe in and you quietly, mentally say in, out, 1, in, out, 2. Like that, you build up to 10. It says 10, not more than that, not less than that. Less than that could be, you could do very well in 1, 2, and then might kind of sink. And then 10, more than 10, it says it may have tendency to kind of bring in some distraction. But the tricky thing is, if you lose track of the counting, you have to start over again. And that way try to kind of do breathing, a series of breathing that you kind of, without losing the track, count up to 10. But the important thing is to breathe in normal, in natural way. You could tend to kind of 1, and that doesn't count. You have to first let it calm down to a natural rhythm, and then as you breathe in and out, without any exertion in how you breathe, whatnot, and let it be however it requires to be, even if it means taking a deep breath in between, whatnot. But what you do is you keep track of in for in, keep track of the in and out correctly, right? So that helps in kind of anchoring the mind to the actual process here and now. So in, out, 1, in, out, 2. I usually say in, out, chick, in, out. Yeah, I bring in the Tibetan aspect there. But in, out is easier in English. Anyway, you build up to 10. Right? So that's the first counting, first round. And then you let go of the counting, you follow the breath. Counting, follow the breath on its passage into the nostrils, into the chest, into the abdomen. The scripture even says into the sole of your feet. Does the breath go there? In a way, it does. It has to carry oxygen all over, right? Right? So it says kind of up to the soul and then come. Kind of feel that you were following it without the counting, without the in-out notation. You do that for a while, maybe for the same amount of time as 10 rounds of breathing. Then let go of that following. Stay put. Stay with the breath. Now, what was that? Counting, follow, stay. Stay in the sense, now you don't move with the breathing. Breathing may happen in a moving way, but kind of assume that it may be moving, but part of it is there all across. Or else, usually we think of focusing on one particular spot, be that the entrance of the nostril, inside somewhere, or on the chest, somewhere you feel palpable. Usually we hear that. In that text, it says, it suggests, it doesn't say clearly one spot. It seems to suggest that in the process, what's happening is, breathing is maybe in the in-breath and out-breath form, but some residues of the breathing is all across, all over the passage, right? So you think of the breathing as an en bloc kind of thing, not moving, but being aware of the breathing, and feeling that being all over, kind of not moving. So that's staying. After you have stayed with that, then comes investigation, probing. Now you probe, right? This is the process of breathing happening. How many parts of me are involved in it? Is this just one aggregate? Or is the form aggregate involved in it? What about the feeling aggregate? Yes, one is feeling. Form, of course, the body system is involved in it. And then the feeling aggregate, perception, you're kind of following it and perceiving it. And then touch, intention, motivation, all of those aspects count for the biggest category, right? And then consciousness. So all of them are involved. It's like this breathing process, all of me is involved in there. All of me. All of me? Who is this me? Then you shift gear. Right? All of me. Wow. The whole of me is involved in this process. This is not that simple. It's complex. And all of me is involved in it. Then you shift gear. Did you say all of me? Who is this me? In relation to this compositional factor, in relation to this complex. Who is me? Then comes the vipassana part of it. Kind of set in by this probing. And then the vipassana takes shape in form of kind of, who is this in relation to these aggregates? What are these aggregates in relation to me? So through that probing, kind of coming to more realistic appreciation of the mind, of appreciation of the nature of self, right? So that's like the path of preparation. And then you refine it further into seeing it directly, part of it, seeing, and then into part of meditation, kind of refining it. Kind of thoroughly refine that understanding. Not just understanding in the sense of objectively understanding it, but kind of internalizing it to the deep core of one's being. And so that kind of sets the so-called 6 forms of meditation and breathing in such a compact form, but complete with vipassana, shamatha and vipassana. It puts the whole idea about meditation, or rather medication, mental medication, into perspective. Physical medication we know we need, and mental medication we need. And that comes in these two generic forms, vipassana and shamatha. And within that, some brands do much better. So this about. So that's the 6 ways of meditation on breathing that Acharya Vasubandhu captures in his root text in such a terse form, and then he explains a little bit in his auto commentary. And I find that very, very, eye-opening, and also very helpful in kind of putting the whole thing about meditation in perspective. Mm-hmm. So, at the end, it all comes to knowing oneself better, not just being carried away by who you think you are, but who you actually are. And from there, you could then make a very practical headway in knowing others. Not until then, right? You know yourself better in terms of what you undergo, how you undergo, who you actually are, what not, particularly in relation to your aggregates, what not. Wow. Then you expand that aggregate into the entire reality, right? Likewise, look at others through that lens. One would have much, much better prospect of sailing smoothly on this journey of life. in this life, across life, until full awakening. So that's the news I want to break here. Thank you.